Okay, what is up, guys? This is Moon Pie Man,
And it's your boy Red.
and this is Anime and Adonai here, where we like to get together to discuss different popular anime, our favorite anime shows, and for what we like about them, what we dislike, and then look at the themes and the messages that they present from a Christian mindset and see how we can apply and learn from them in our lives.
We are weebs, and we want to talk about anime.
We are Christian weebs.
Christian weebs.
Worshipping weebs, that is.
So,
all right.
Philip, you're a weeb, right?
Yes, I am. Thank you. That's on air now.
I had to do that.
That's a reference to something else. Something beyond y'all's understanding.
It's an inside joke.
That's right. We're going to get started here, though, with the weather before we get into our main show. So right now it's 66 degrees outside, so really nice. We're hitting spring. Spring is sprung, or coming at least. It's going to be sunny for the most part of the weekend.
Be nice this week.
Yeah, going to be in the mid 60s and mid to high 30s at night. They're going to get some showers on Sunday night and Monday, but besides that, it's not going to be too bad. So, nice, fun weekend. Go out and enjoy it. Red's going to give us our verse of the day from Bible Gateway.
It's going to be Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 through 7, and it says, "And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise." And it's kind of like, us today in God's word is, he's saying these commands be on your heart, and you need to teach them to your household and teach them, to the people. And it says like lie down and, when you rise. And it's kind of like every aspect, lie down and when you rise, it's like the aspect of when you go sleep and when you get up for the next day, is we need to have that word on our heart throughout the day so we can live for the Lord correctly in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Great reminder for all of us to follow. So today we are going to be talking about the one and only Death Note.
Yes, so I think the beginning of when we started this podcast, I was like, we need to do Death Note. So that was on our list. That was on our list.
Now, Death Note it's not a very long show. It's only 37 episodes, but It is extremely popular and famous. If you go to myanimelist.com, it's number one on the popularity polls there. So a lot of people love this show. Even someone like me who isn't a huge fan of it, I don't really enjoy it, but I respect it for what it does, because it is a great idea.
Yes,
it's well made.
It's kind of like,
I got to give it that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the really good concept of it's kind of like Star Wars and many other shows that a lot of people like that you may not appreciate. Like, I like Star Wars, but a lot of people don't. But they appreciate like certain shows like Indiana Jones, like movies like that, kind of have these concepts that you kind of appreciate, because anime before then was mostly just action and stuff like this. Yeah. And so this kind of I think showed a new genre in anime, where anime like these TV shows can be thoughtful, and it can be it can be mystery and just thought provocative compared to just I'm beating the brains out of some villain.
Instead of beating the brains out, it's using those brains.
And it's very interesting to kind of see that in a concept in television. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the show came out in 2007, so it's hitting 13 years now. Pretty old.
That's the thing, is I don't think it was not really popular when it came out, like officially came out, because I remember I didn't hear about Death Note until I was maybe 13 or 14, and that's several years down the road, and it started getting really popular I think a couple years after it started.
Yeah, so it's got a cult following.
Yeah, it has a following.
You could say. But before we get into kind of what the story's about, I'm just going to give you all a teaser here. So we're going to go ahead and give a break and let you hear the intro to this famous show. And then when we come back, we'll get into the plot and the characters and get into the meat of it. So here we go.
Check out my new time machine.
Does it work?
Hit the button. Hey, it's Napoleon.
Oui. Check out the future.
Hey, you have a nice house. Why don't I?
You didn't save any money, buddy.
If only there was a way I could go back in time and fix that.
Yeah.
Save something for the future. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
All right, and there you go. Just a quick glimpse. We got a lot to talk about, so we're not going to have quite as many songs right now.
We're gonna go on a tangent though. Is Philip does not like the intro song?
Yeah, I don't know about you listeners out there, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of the intro. It's too weird.
Right when
it's
he
gothic.
like when we were talking about Death Note and like and topics to talk about, he's like, I don't like the theme as much, and I'm like, I just look at him in awe. I'm like, I love this song, and so. And I think he agrees, too, that it's like one of the iconic...
It is. Once you hear it, you instantly know what it's from. So, again, I have respect for the show, but I don't necessarily like it.
Yeah. But, so we're going to go ahead and kind of get into the, I guess, the introduction.
Kind of a synopsis of the show. So, the story follows this high schooler who he enters college over the course of the series. But he's Light Yagami, and he's this brilliant kid, really smart, really clever, and he comes into possession of this mysterious notebook called the Death Note.
Yeah, but does it start with the demons side of the before he drops the?
Yes, I'm fast forwarding through the plot, so you can fill in the gaps. But basic premise of the show is Light Yagami, he gets this book that came from this demon / god of death called Ryuk. And Ryuk has this notebook, and whoever's name he writes in it will die. Mm-hmm. And so Light finds this book that Ryuk dropped or something on Earth while he was making his rounds.
Well, the thing is like in the thing is like I guess the King of Death or something gives them these books, and he writes them down they're basically like Grim Reapers basically, with kind of that premise. And so they have the Death Note is when they kind of they know people's lifespan, so they write when they die and stuff like that. So when he just was so bored out of his mind. He's just like, I'm just going to drop this and see where this goes.
Right.
And that's the premise of it. He writes it in English so people can kind of understand it. And then he throws it down and Light picks it up.
Yeah, Light picks it up. And so he reads the rules. He figures out if you write a person's name and you know their face, then you can kill them, basically. If you write their name, then they die. And you can specify how they die, when they die.
Yeah.
Lots of very specific rules that affect how you can use the notebook.
And it was so interesting is when Light gets it, he's like, this can't be real. This can't be a thing. So he's just like, okay, I'm going to test it out. He's, like,
Which I admit, I mean, I would do that. Because
Well-
I would think it is a prank.
I'm like, it's like as a, he was in high school at the time, so there's just this high schooler just like, oh, it's just a joke, and so he's just looking at it and it's like, oh, this is very interesting rules and stuff. He's like, this seems very detailed for a weird notebook. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna test it out. So he looks up some criminal.
Right.
Just he's like some criminal that's on death row, and he's just like, okay, I'm just gonna test out here, just jokingly, so he puts the name in there, and then all of a sudden, on news, their television on there, all of a sudden the guy dies immediately when he wrote his name down, and he's just like, oh, it's just a coincidence. So he closes the book and puts it up, and later there's I think it was this, it's kind of like a bully in a sense, is this guy that would messing with Light, and then I think he wrote his name down and he got killed, and that's when Light figured out, it's like, okay,
Yeah,
it's real.
eventually he realizes that the book actually works and that with this notebook he can do so much if you want to. So much damage, so much good, maybe, depending on how you see good.
Well, yeah.
And that's eventually what Light gets to, is that he realizes he has the power to kill whoever he wants. And so he thinks to himself, I can use this to recreate the world order, to take out anyone who is wrong, or take out and kill any criminal, any mass murderer,
And
any terrorist.
that's why he and so he kind of like says like, I can take it in my own hands now, in a sense of saying like, okay, I see all this injustice, like in the, kind of like, no government's gonna, like some people, like a lot of criminals these days, today, some of them will be get out of prison somehow, or like some crooked people somehow get out of being in trouble, and they and so he's just like, in his mind, he's like, they deserve the punishment, so he basically tries to get all the criminals he can. So a bunch of criminals just start dropping, and that's when the government's freaking out and they're like, we need to do something. And that's when you want to go ahead and go into the plot, or we just kind of
go into... what happens is that Light basically the power gets to his head, and he declares himself to be the god of this new world, that new world order he's going to create. And he does it under the guise of Kira, this god, this master of death. And so as Kira, he proclaims, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove injustice. I'm going to create peace and prosperity for everyone.
And he puts it on like a broadcast system thing where they can't trace him. And it's just this, and it just says Kira, and then it has his message to the world. So everyone's like freaking out once he actually did that. People were kind of like, oh, the government's like, what's going on? Like all these random criminals are dying of heart attacks and stuff like this. And that was the Light's specialty, was he wanted to be like, well, as Kira, I want the heart attacks. So almost all of his things were
if he didn't write a specific way that they died,
it was a heart attack.
And mostly heart attacks. So the government realizes that there's this guy named Kira. He's got some weird ideas, but he's killing people, and there's no way to stop him right now. So they find and they hire this teenage detective named L.
It's like this Supermind guy that like solved a lot of cases, and they're like, okay, we need to bring the big guns, and this guy was
big brain time.
Big brain, and they brought L, which was, he was raised in an academy just for this, to like be a mastermind and intelligent to solve problems. And even in the second season, there's another guy. What was his name? I'm always bad with Near, and he came from the same orphanage as L did. So I guess the orphanage doesn't fall far from the tree, in the sense of
the
orphanage.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
Near and L, they're both masterminds, but the main guy that goes against Light and is trying to find him is L.
Yeah.
And so no one knows his name. No one really knows his backstory. He's shrouded in mystery, but they do know he's an awesome detective. And so he's weird. He keeps to himself.
Yeah.
He's always eating potato chips or sweets.
And he's always
socially awkward.
sitting with his like legs up, and he sits like this, and then it's just he's just this awkward dude. You're like so like in the series you kind of go like, I like him, and he's just very unorthodox of how he just thinks of things,
and total opposite of Light, who's
very
yes,
serious.
he's starting to become a mass murderer, but he's super popular at school. Everyone likes him. He puts on this front of just being a calm, collected senior at high school. He's totally different than Elle, who's just embracing his weirdness.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the rest of the show is Elle trying to figure out, first of all, who this Kira is. He's trying to find Light, and Light realizes that Elle poses a threat to him and his power and his desire to bring justice and peace to the world. So Light is trying to figure out how can he kill Elle, because since Elle is just an initial, no one knows his name.
Yeah.
So Light can't write his name in the death book and kill him in the death note. So it's the kind of cat and mouse chase as they both get the upper hand, then the other one gets the upper hand as they try to figure out who each other are.
Yeah.
And what's ironic about the whole situation is that Light's dad works for the police force.
Yeah, and that's where Elle starts saying is like there's a region in I think it was a region in Japan that the Kira did the broadcast. So Elle was like, okay, he's in this area, and then Light started using stuff that he got from his dad's files for the criminals and stuff. So that's when Elle started trying to he started to figure out this guy has to be related or part of, in some sort of way, part of the police force.
Yeah, because Light's dad, the Yagami, he is working directly with Elle.
Yeah, so he has all these files, and so that's why Elle is very suspicious that Kira, the killer,
might have a connection with.
Because every time they try to sniff him out, he already is a step ahead of him. So Elle's like, okay, he has some of our information.
Yeah.
And so this is like a big investigation, trying to like figure out and kind of look at the side of the people that are trying to bring Kira to justice, and then you obviously Light as Kira, and you're seeing both sides of this investigation and trying to not really rule the world, but try to do his own thing.
One is trying to rule the world, basically, and put it in his own image, and the other one is trying to stop him.
Yeah.
So on L's side, you've got Light's dad and the rest of the police force. On Light's side, the Shinigami, the one who was in charge of the Death Note originally, Ryuk, he hangs out with Light. And no one else can see him but Light, because Light's the only one who.
Yeah,
has
but that
the
was the most interesting thing when I watched it. Also, like Light's just chilling with the notebook, and he's just like, "Man, this is okay." And he's figuring it out, and all of a sudden Ryuk's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's just like, "Oh my gosh, what are you?"
Freaks out.
And then like it's so interesting to see this guy that literally has a demon that follows him around, and he's used to it. To the point where it's like his buddy, and it's just so weird to see that dynamic.
Yeah. So Light has Ryuk. Later, another Death Note falls into the hands of a person, Misa Amane, and so this girl, she gets a Death Note. She figures out that she can be like this Kira person she's heard of.
So she starts claiming herself to be the second Kira.
Right, but she is totally infatuated with.
Well, because Kira
Light.
killed her. She had a big past of her parents were murdered, I think, and so like I guess the killer, Kira, Light had a list of people. So obviously he didn't do it on purpose, knowing that he helped her out. Well, not really, but like in her sense is like, oh, my killer was brought to justice.
Yeah,
in a
Kira
sense.
avenged my parents.
So she's just like, she's very. So now she's like literally like she don't know who he is, but she's like very like kind of like in a love sense,
Oh
like
yeah,
totally
head over heels.
Head over heels. So she's like, she don't even know him, but she's willing to do anything to be with him and be like him. So she becomes Kira too.
And eventually the Kiras meet.
They meet, yep.
And Misa, admits to Light, hey, I'm the other Kira. I want to follow you and be your wife and be your girlfriend.
She's just like, I'll be your girlfriend. And then so Light's just like, and him being the dude that I'm literally going to describe him. He basically has a god complex, so he does not care about her at all. And so he's just like, well, I think he, at the second season stuff, he starts having feelings for her. And
yeah,
but like in the first season, no, he was just like, hey, she has a notebook like me and she's willing to help me. Okay, I'm gonna use her. She's useful.
Yeah.
And then he even says, is like, I'm going to kill her off if she's not useful anymore. And then the Kirigami, the I guess kind of like Shinigami, the one kind of similar to Ryuk, but he looks like a female. I don't like a hair stylist dude.
It's a girl, lady.
Yeah, but
Lady Shinigami.
Yeah.
Who's with Misa.
And so the Lady Shinigami basically told Light, if you mess with Misa, I'm going to kill you. And so Light's in this like paradox. It's so funny. Is this is like it's like very violent anime, but it's kind of funny to see like he's like, crap, I can't kill her because I will die. So he can't really abuse her like he really originally thought.
Yeah.
So this is like a dynamic where he kind of has to respect her through the process.
Even though he's, got an IQ of 1,000, a genius. He's a genius and mastermind. And Misa is kind of ditzy, kind of. She's not impulsive. Very impulsive. Wants to just rush into things, and so she drives Light crazy with her schemes.
So once because she wants to help out, so now she has this love for him. She's like willing to do anything for him, and then when like things happen, that's when Elle, like when she started doing stuff like that, that's when Elle started sniffing out that like those two, and so that's when Light and I always butcher her name. Misa. Light and Misa. He basically like, it's them, and then he like immediately locks him up, and locks up Misa first, and then locks up because of I guess because of the surveillance and everything, they figure out that Light was with Misa the whole time.
Yeah.
And so that's when Light and Misa are together in like kind of not really like prison, but it's kind of like a it's like a cell.
They're under surveillance, and what happens is that it all looks really bad. Like Light's cover's about to be blown, he's about to be found out, but he manages to bend and use the specific rules of the Death Note.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Just right, so that he can almost miraculously escape from, get under and out from L's suspicions, clear his name, and kind of get away with it.
Can I explain what they do? It's so interesting.
If you can do it in 60 seconds.
Okay, we'll do that after the 60 seconds. Yeah. But yeah, it's like just we'll go about we didn't even mention the episodes. Let's go ahead and mention that, and then we'll go into break and kind of regroup.
Yeah, once we get to the themes, we'll take a quick break.
Let's just go, because they kind of, but it was in 2003. How many episodes is it now?
It's 37 episodes.
Yeah,
and it's broken up into two parts. So
season 1 and season 2.
Season 1 focuses on Light versus L. L's the detective who shows up. He joins forces with Light's dad. Light has to make sure no one realizes that it's him. He teams up with Misa. All of this happens. Eventually, L gets close to the truth, almost so that he can't prove it, but he knows in his gut that Light is Kira. But unfortunately, he doesn't have enough proof to get away with it, and what happens is that Light manages to use Misa's Shinigami to kill L. And so L dies in a big shock at the end of the first part.
It was so sad. It was so sad.
Because he knew the truth. He knew what was going on, but he didn't have enough time to be able to get proof so he could tell everyone.
Because L, that was the thing, is it was so defeating because you see both sides. And at the point now, it's like it's kind of weird. Is like this anime is kind of flip flops what you think of. It's like the good guys and the bad guys, and then all of a sudden now it's just like you started with the perspective of the ideal of like a bad guy in a sense. Like Light he's trying to kill everyone that he seems fit. He's trying to has a god complex, and then L is trying to solve it. But you have the perspective of Light, and then you see L too, and then both sides is just it kind of becomes a gray area of both characters now, and you're like, and now both characters are kind of both value to you in a sense, like as a when you're watching it as a person, you're not just like, oh yeah, go Light, he won. You kind of are now develop kind of like this kind of like I like L
yeah,
and that's
the show makes you kind of wring your hands together. You're stressing over who do I like and who do I support,
like which
and why?
side,
because
which side
neither side is fully in the right. They both
there's a lot of wrongs. There's a lot of wrongs on both
to
sides. So it's when
so L dies.
Yeah.
And then Light thinks that he's in the clear. He got rid of his main opponent, the only one who could figure out his true identity. So he's starting to change the world order. Countries are promising that they won't try to attack Kira. They won't try to find out Light's identity because he threatens to kill them if they do. And so everything's going according to plan until Nier and Mello, two more brilliant teenage masterminds who come from this orphanage that L was from.
But Mello, they never really.
Yeah, well, Mello and Nier they're always bumping heads. They're trying to decide who's the smartest of the two because they both kind of graduated at the same time, and they were both closest to being as smart as L was. So they come up on the scene, and Nier works with the American government to try to bring Kira to justice. Mello works with his own kind of black market underhand.
Kind of like
sources.
a private. It's kind of like his own private type of organization trying to solve the problem.
And so they both try to come at different angles to find and catch Kira and prove that they're smarter than L because they can do what L was never able to accomplish.
Yeah.
So now Light has more problems he's having to deal with. He manages to take out Mello, but at the end, no matter how much he kind of tries to squeeze and use other people for his purposes, he tries to put the blame of Kira and the Death Note on someone else. But no matter what he does, Nier eventually is able to catch him in the act and to basically catch him red-handed and trying to kill people with the Death Note. And at the end, there's this big confrontation scene. Light is found out.
Yeah.
And he's mortally wounded in a gunfight. And it's up to Ryuk to take back his Death Note that he let Light have all that while ago. And Ryuk, the Shinigami, writes Light's name in the book and kills Light and ends the reign of terror that he created.
And that's the anime. Really, at the end, I was just, I watched. I told him I was like, I didn't really watch the last episode when he done that, But I looked videos at it and like clips and stuff, and I'm just like, knowing all the context and stuff before that one episode when they literally show that, and that was just really like, it kind of before like you think of like this relationship that he had with Ryuk, and you thought that he probably wouldn't cross him. No, he did, and you're just sitting there like, really, this happened, and we'll go on break, but
Yeah,
we'll
we both have thoughts on how the show ended up being,
and it just. Yeah, so we'll have some music from the anime, and we'll go back into the plot, and then we'll some applications with our Christian faith.
Yeah, we'll wrap up what we thought about the plot, how it ended up being, and then we'll discuss the themes, which are pretty heavy.
Yeah, but it's
ideas.
not as heavy as Full Metal Alchemist. I'll
no,
tell you that.
we're not gonna go down that big road, but we'll be on break, and we'll come back in just a little bit to Anime and Adonai. You don't know what it's like to be alive until you've been living in the truth. Join me, Moonpie Man,
and Mr. Media
on Mondays from 4 to 5 as we walk through the Word together.
Let's do it, y'all.
All right, and we're back to Anime and Adonai, Moon Pie Man and Red.
Yep, we're
And
back.
So we've been talking about Death Note. We just kind of gave you a big run through of the plot.
It's a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
It's not as bad as Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist had, okay, how we're gonna compare it is they had a lot of plots at like a lot of things that went well. The Death Note is a little something different where it's all one plot in a sense of trying to like Light is trying to continue his his world, like what he's trying to do, rule the world in a sense, and that's the whole plot of him trying to rule the world and all these different organizations. Even season 2, after L dies, trying to thwart him of what he's trying to do. So it's kind of like it's really interesting.
Yeah, one single driving thing, and then Full Metal Alchemist, you've got
several at
multiple
once. But it's a really
really
good anime too. Because it just all mixes.
They're both
together.
good in their own.
It's kind of like opposite of the two. Is one focuses on one theme, really their main theme really well, and extends it to like 2 seasons, and then with Full Metal Alchemist they take a lot and somehow mingle it together
and make it all work.
Yeah, so it's just like anime just has a lot of good like concepts.
Yeah. So speaking of this concept, what were your reactions to the show? How did you enjoy it? I know you got some disagreements.
I just don't. I just at the end, and that's my thing is at the end, especially when Light ends up dying, and Nier's just like, yeah, I caught him, man. I got so
yay, I caught him.
I got so angry because I was just like, man, like I'm invested in this, and you just Ryuk just froze L under the okay. I've been through all of Light's
schemes,
all of
his plans,
and then he's just like, okay, you're done now. It's like, what, dude?
Well, Ryuk told him that from the beginning. He's like, here's the Death Note. I'm going to hang out with you, but we're not friends. I just want to see what interesting thing you can do with it.
I know,
I just want to be amused.
I know, but my thing is Ryuk threw him under the... I understand, like, if he just watched, and then when he got caught, that was it. But, no, Ryuk just, like, instead of just saying, see, like, because if he got caught, he could try to do stuff to cover it up. Mm-hmm. No, it's just like, okay, you're done now. And then that was it.
I don't know. I agree with that. I didn't like how it ended. I wanted Light and Nier to kill each other.
Yes, I wanted like
Nier to be able to catch Light, but Light be able to write Nier's name in the Death Note at the very end.
I wanted to think like make Light even more intelligent is he knew that he was going to die or something and had his name already at a certain time and everything. And so Nier is like comes back and like celebrates or whatever, and then all of a sudden he just like like, oh no.
Yeah, he feels the heart attack coming and know that Light got him at the end.
And that would be the greatest ending, but
yeah,
anime.
So, because anime. But were you cheering for Light? Like, did you like him at the end? Because for me, at first, I didn't like Light. I respected him. I thought he was very smart, but I didn't like him. But at the end, I felt myself cheering for him. I wanted him to win.
Wanted him to. Yeah, okay. It's kind of this anime. I'm just gonna tell you, it's not a godly. Well, it's not like I don't know. It's not like some shows where they're just like it's just constant immoral stuff. This is just like you're watching and seeing them do immoral things and how
smart they can do it.
So it's not really like you're watching a criminal, like investigation stuff. It's like it's kind of like how far can this go?
Yeah.
And so like all that. So we're not really rooting for his immoral behavior. Mm-hmm. We're just seeing how far that man can go.
And I
And
didn't like Nier, and
like,
so
and
I
I
wanted
didn't.
Light to
Yeah,
be able
so
to get rid of him.
we're invested in this show. So we're just like for entertainment wise. So we're just wanting to see. It's like I wanted to see Light, kind of like because he's really smart and intelligent, and through the whole season you develop him as a character. And now you're attached in a sense, and you're just like, okay, I hope he like somehow pulls like a 180.
Yeah, because we've seen that throughout the whole show.
Yeah,
The
and I
show
was
does a
like-
great job of
and-
paying attention to details and
And
letting
that would have been
Light
so cool if he
pull
got
out things
yeah.
from thin air.
You
Almost.
know, like if he got caught and all of a sudden he just pulled the aha, see, I did this, and then all of a sudden everything would be hunky dory, and I'm like, that would have been better than just this. But
justice must be served.
justice must be served, and
True justice.
so let's go ahead and go into the themes.
Yeah, because that's Death Note is really well known for its mind games, for its
And
back
also
and forth.
it's well known for its religious references.
Yes.
So like in my favorite theme song, it has a lot of religious references, Christian, Christian, like probably a lot of
Quote unquote.
quote unquote. These are Japanese people that don't know the Lord, and they're just writing what they.
Spoiler about anime. There's a lot of Christian quote unquote influence in them.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot
they're-
of. It's mostly
they're-
like it's mostly
they
like
don't know what they're
it's mostly
talking
like
about.
Catholic, and then some like basically it's like America. It's like if someone didn't know much about America and they're in a whole different country and they're just like, well, Americans have blonde hair and they're rich,
blue eyes,
and they're buff, like or something.
and
They-
we go around with the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, it's just like that's what they think sometimes. And that's the same way with this anime or just the anime industry or TV shows of that, in Japan, they take this concept and they're like, oh, this is talking about death and stuff. Let's go ahead and just throw in these Christian themes.
Yeah. Throw
And-
in a mural,
Mural,
throw in
like
a
some like
cross.
some stained glass in the
Make
background.
sure everyone knows that Light thinks himself as the god of the world.
So we're gonna throw in some Christian
Lingo, kind of.
lingo.
Yeah.
And so what's the first theme do you have, Philip?
So what I've got, and this is a well-known phrase, but that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
We've all heard about that, but you see it slowly come to life before your eyes in the character of Light Yagami so well. Because he starts off, he doesn't know what the Death Note is. He thinks it's a joke. He does some experiments with it, and when he realizes it's real, at first he tries to use it for good. He's like, I'll kill these criminals who have done terrible things. They deserve to die. Everyone knows they're
So he
about
has,
to die.
and obviously, to people that are listening, it's like, well, he's taking God. He's like trying to be, basically try to be like God at this point. But you gotta think out of what he's done. The first part was the kind of like a better thing is like, you know what, he had a better mission instead of, beginning he started right. He started just like, I'm just gonna kill criminals and I'm gonna try to do the greater good.
Yeah.
And then it started becoming devolved. in
Yeah,
a
because what
sense.
happened is that he was trying to protect himself because people were trying to find Kira, and so, well, I have to kill them so they
then
don't
he's
find
killing,
me.
and then he's killing innocent people that are just part of the government, and that's what.
Yeah, whoever stands in his way.
Yeah, and then you kind of see this
corruption.
Yeah.
And the de-evolution of his ideals and morals. And that's what it's talking about. When he has this power, this ultimate control over someone's life, he just needs a face and a name. He started off with good intentions, but eventually he just became so warped in his own mind of this is how
He
the world has
just-
to be according to how I
because
see fit.
and it's just like like with that example is like humans is we have this ideal that's going to happen, but since we're sinful and we're wrong, we're going to mess up, and and our ideals are not going to look how we originally wanted it. Look at Russia. Look at the SSR, like it's communism. It's like communism. I looked at history and stuff, and they talk about this, and I'm not trying to be political in any shape or form, but I'm trying to tell you guys is like, as U.S. we look at communism and we're like, oh, that's bad, right? And when you look at it on paper, it's like everyone gets a good share. The government tries to make sure everyone has enough and all this, and you're like, oh, this is great. But the government didn't do their part, and then it just got corrupted, and everyone was suffering.
Yeah, corruption
So
always
so
comes.
even with humans like great ideals, it's not going to end up how they want it.
Yeah, because a lot of times you think to yourself, man, if I was God, I would do this and this and make everything so much better. We think
But
if we just had
you-
that power, we could fix stuff. But
Because you are not God, you're going to
yeah, because we're
you're-
sinful. And
we're
so,
sinful, so you're just gonna make things even worse.
Right.
It kind of shows ultimately how light was the reflection of our sinful nature.
Because
how-
any one of us could have done what light eventually
Yes.
became.
Yep.
But that should make us thankful and grateful that the God that does exist, the true God of the world,
Yes.
is holy. He's perfect. Everything he does is good and is for our good. And so under Kira, under light, people lived in peace, quote unquote, but also fear. They were afraid because they didn't know what they would do to tick off Kira and make him
And so
kill them
then
off.
because he's a human, and like a lot of religions, I studied a lot of these, religions and different worldviews and stuff, and a lot of these people are kind of like, trying to please this angry God for their and this is what he's a human, and when these people make this God up, all these idols and stuff, they're with human thoughts upon this, fake God, and he's a human, so now they're like scared, because he's not perfect and he does what he wants,
And what he wants isn't good.
And yeah, and it may at first he might have had this good ideal, but now he's just trying to defend himself. And he's basically like at the end, like the second season, the countries didn't mess with him because they were scared of him.
Yeah.
It was not because he's wishing well, as we don't need to cross him.
And this idea of light taking control of everything and what he saw was right in his own eyes goes back and plays into kind of the main theme and idea that defines this show, and that's the question of what is right and wrong, what is justice. Because according to light, at first justice and right was to kill the criminals who have broken the law. Eventually
He became the criminal.
he became the law
yeah.
and became the criminal. He said, my way, what I think is right, that's the law that you have to follow.
He took everything in his hands.
Yeah, and so what's right is according to me. And that's what El was fighting against, is that he's saying, look, light, Kira, even if you're killing criminals, you're doing it because you deemed them unworthy
Yeah.
to live. And that's not your place as a person to say that. And so light thought that he could define what justice was in the world.
Yeah, and then we also see the opposite side with El with the really, really good intention to catch Light, but like with El was willing to throw everything under, like everyone, to use anyone and everyone to find him.
Yeah, he
So-
used the police force, he used the government,
And he
used
some
Light's dad,
Yeah, so
and manipulated them.
So in a way, he was almost just as bad as Light in a sense, even though he didn't really kill anyone, but deliberate, like physically, like out of his choice. But he knew, he was manipulating them, and he knew. And there's several people, like they had, like I think it was only like 5 that stayed to help
Yeah,
El.
after
and,
El had totally manipulated the entire police force to his own means, only 5 people said, okay, manipulate us.
because they were
As
willing.
long as we can catch him, yeah.
Yeah, they were willing to, and their demise was all because he was using them as chess, and that kind of seizes the, even in the government, like our government, like the U.S. or government with just any country, they may, obviously the government is there because without government, humanity is going to be in chaos. We need lawlessness. But there's a difference between a government that's trying to hold morals, godly morals, right, in our life, but when they start saying, we're going to do what we want and how we want it and when we want it, then they're starting to play God in their role.
Yeah.
And it's even though they're in a role to kind of like take care of the population in a sense, then they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing either.
And that's really what gets interesting and harder as the show continues, is that El and later Near keep fighting against Kira, but because of Kira and Light's actions, the world crime rate did drop. There were fewer crimes. He united the world under his name, basically. We're world peace. There was no wars. There was little crime. And so from an outside perspective, you look at that and say, well, that looks good. That's
like,
right.
From
Justice
like stats,
has been achieved.
It's like stats, but it's like
once you look deeper and see the reasons why that is.
Yeah, and it's like, did it really? Because that's the same thing with our solutions is, in us and our life is I make these decisions, right, to solve my problems, and then they come to haunt me. Mm-hmm. Is at first, it's the same way if like your, like your choices in your life, it's like, and the same thing with like us as college students is like our selection in jobs and degrees. And I know, and I also me teaching, in helping in youth, they're like, they want to do this, they want to do that. I want to do this with my career. And I'm like, well, are you seeking what God wants you to do? And a lot of us, and even me, I've tried to take jobs, just part-time jobs just to, pay bills. And I do that without even thinking, is this what God wants me to do? And then quickly now I'm regretting to even be in that job in the first place because that was not what God wanted me to do.
Yeah, and that's the main thing we've got to remember in this show where it's Light and El, Near, and other people, and everyone's wondering what's right, what's wrong, what's justice. Is the peace that I'm seeking for worth the cost that I'm paying for it?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, with that show, it didn't. None of it was worth it.
Yeah, it ends in a depressing manner.
Yeah,
because the truth was just anyone's opinion. And what Red is saying here, and what we have to remember as Christians, is that justice and what's right and wrong isn't just whatever I think or feel. Mm-hmm. Justice and truth is defined by God and His word, His law. Mm-hmm. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Whoever comes to the Father must come through me. Mm-hmm. And that idea that we see throughout the Bible as defining, we see in the Ten Commandments, we see in Jesus's and Paul's teachings, all these things help give us parameters of what real justice, what real rightness and goodness looks like. It's not defined by people because we're sinful and we're going to mess it up.
And it's through the means of the Son. And we're trying to...
It's through Christ and His word.
Yes, and it is just so interesting to see when we watch these type of shows that it kind of shows the human nature. Mm-hmm. And even as a Christian, just watching these shows, it kind of shows how deprived humanity can be without God.
Yeah, and when a lot of these shows do really fascinating look at trying to understand and explain humanity if it was humanity without God. Mm-hmm. And the result is always depressing, no hope, and dark. And we see that clearly in Death Note, in that if there is no true right and wrong, and if you have the power to create a just world, it's only going to make you abuse it. That's a bleak outlook on life and on humanity, and there's no solution for it. And that's why we get to watch these and understand them, but then we can know as Christians that isn't the end of the story. Humanity isn't abandoned here to figure it out and to mess it up over and over again without any change.
And that's the same way, like in that main the main theme of the kind of like the thing you constantly see that the characters are doing is they're playing God.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it in their own actions of how they want it and when they want it and how they want it. And it's the same way with us. And kind of like the example I was saying is I want to do this, I want to do that, and you just gotta remind yourself. And like Philip said, Christ says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and only through Him." And without Christ, we're ultimately gonna, our vision on our life, the things that we do that think they're gonna bring happiness, they're just voids that are giant void in our heart that can't be filled. And like Light ended up, he reached his pinnacle of what he thought he wanted, in a sense of saying like, oh, I technically rule the whole nations with my own vision, and crime rate and all that, yes, it went well for him for a little bit. And it's just like musicians and all these people that get Grammys and stuff like that. When they get it, they're like, oh, it's just that. And it really didn't fulfill them. And it's the same way with us, is anything we do outside of God's will and what He wants us and what He has in store for our life, it's not going to fill any of that void at the end of the day.
I mean, one of the other themes that we weren't able to really hit on because of time is the price for peace. How far are you willing to go to achieve your goals? And for Light, he sacrificed everything. He sacrificed his friends, his family. Half of his family died over the course of the show.
His father died because of this.
His father died. His sister became mentally ill and she was wheelchair bound for the rest of her life. And so he paid a heavy toll to achieve his godhood, quote unquote. And when he got there, there was nothing but stress, anxiety, fear, and emptiness. Yeah. And for Elle, he worked as hard as he could to find and catch Kira and Light, but at the price of he had to abuse and manipulate everyone around him.
And even his butler, the guy that basically raised him, he basically threw him in many situations that even he ended up dying, didn't he? I remember.
I don't remember that exact. No.
I don't think
memory fails me here.
But they put him in a lot. They put the butler in a lot of situations that he shouldn't have.
Yeah, and so Elle had to sacrifice other people to achieve his goals. And so for us, it's, what is my goal? What is my dream in life to be? And what is that going to cost? Yeah. Is it like, if I want to have a life of ease and laziness here in college, a fun, quote-unquote, life, that's going to cost me my relationship with my friends, my family, my grades, all of this. If we want to be Christians and to put off this world and put on Christ, that's going to cost us
a lot. It's the same way with, everything's going to cost you in your decisions that you make. But
that's why Peter says count the cost.
And it's like gain the whole world but yet forfeit your soul. And it's the same way with us, is we truly die to ourselves of our desires and kind of put on Christ's desires and God's desires. Truly, we're going to be more fulfilled than anything we aspire to be like.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Kira, Light, he had a clear goal in mind, but it was the wrong goal and dream. Yeah. It was one steeped in sin and selfishness.
And that's at the root of the day.
To emptiness.
At the root of the day, all sin is with selfishness.
Yeah. And so, but if we fix our eyes on Christ and seek Him, laying aside every weight and sin which entangles us, the reward is going to be fulfilling. It'll be joy and peace and life with Him in heaven. And that's what we've got to pursue.
Yep. And so that's what we got out of this anime for today and our Christian values. So.
Yep. So thank you very much, guys, at YouTube, checking us out. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Stay tuned for the next episode.
Next week. And so that was Death Note, and we'll see you later.
The next episode of Dragon Ball Z.